Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts,
Dr. George,
and Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
We continue our coverage of Red Country, Joe's third standalone and the next First Law entry, and we cover Driftwood and Reasons. So let's get started. Oh, I had messed up the intro there, folks, that you did not hear because I'll have edited and fixed it. But Jesus Christ.
You're going to skip the whole bit out? I made it a whole bit for a reason. So
no, I'm cutting it out, man. I'm cutting it out because we need a sense of continuity.
Sorry, I will totally make it up to you. I'll just interrupt you a couple times.
Yeah, that'll work. That'll work. Thank you so much for that. Hello, everybody. How's it going? We want to thank you for your support as usual. You know the deal by now. You guys have been commenting that we've seen on Spotify, right? George, wasn't there a recent one?
Was there a recent? Sorry.
Yeah, we got an email notification. We got a recent comment on Spotify.
Yeah, but it's a funny thing, isn't it? Like the ones that we get an email about are like 2 weeks old.
Really? That's funny.
You have a new comment and it's like something you've already approved. Okay.
Oh.
I'll tell you the cool part though is we have had a lot of growth in the Discord lately. We've made a couple of our long-term biggest fans essentially mods, and they have been able to add some people who've been wanting to join just simply because both we suck with communication even with each other, and because we don't have access to Reddit, which is the main place that people are from. So
our main recruitment tool.
Yeah. So we gotta basically start doing like propaganda leaflets and everything, just like airdropping them.
Every address in the world, like Santa.
Yeah, basically.
So
keep if you're on Reddit, ask a couple people you know who to ask for a Discord link, or just make a post and ask about it. Otherwise, reach out to us on our Instagram, our Twitter, our what else we got? Facebook page, and our YouTube page as well.
We have Facebook.
And don't forget, if you're a YouTube diehard, just know that all episodes are all automatically uploaded to YouTube. So there you go. So we'll just move on to our next segment, which is our community interaction segment. Basically, it's the same deal. The meming every chapter for Red Country is up and running on the House of the Meme Maker subreddit.
There's some good ones in there already.
Yeah, hosted by yours truly, Sir Spaceman. If you didn't sign up for a chapter, you better sign up, right, George? That's how it works?
Yeah, you got to sign up. There's still some available. A lot of them have been taken up by this point, but there's quite a few in there that you might want to get. You got some of the
absence. I think absence make the heart grow fonder, because he hasn't done like a meming every chapter for a while, and he hadn't done it like this in a while. So I think people were like, "Yes, now's my time. I'm ready."
But even so, like, I mean, it would have already gone by now by the time this episode comes out. But there's free for alls on there as well. So any of the little people chapters, you can just jump on there and make one, and you don't need to sign up for it. So.
Yeah. And if you do, the one that you do sign up for is like the pinned one, right, George?
Yes.
Does he pins
the pin post right at the top of the House of the Meme Maker, and you can just go on there and get on there and sign up.
Sounds good. So get on with that, boys and ladies, and start making some dank memes. So we'll move on to our first chapter read-through, which is Driftwood. And Driftwood is from the perspective of Shy. And, well, so this is like the part where the Fellowship gets to a ford of a river, right? And they're trying to ford it, cross it. And it's a little difficult to do with wagons and oxen.
I think this is kind of this is one of those obscure things that you find in a book that you just don't think about, and then you're like, oh yeah, I guess it would be hard. Yeah, crossing a ford is nothing that we have to do, and yet for traveling people for all of time has always been like a major pain in the ass. So got to find the right spot. Got to make sure you're not gonna slip and die. Got to wait for the right, rainfall in a lot of places. So I appreciate that Joe, as always, he pays quite a bit of attention to the details of maybe not like good things, but definitely difficult things. He always pays attention to.
Yeah, for sure. The things that really test one's desire to continue existing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, because like across the river, the fort on the other side of the bank, you have, I guess, the majority of the fellowships already crossed. You have SG, the priest, who's out there praying for their safe conduct across. Then you got Dab Sweet, I guess, is trying to lead Shy and the wagon she's on, and I think that wagon is the one that Majud is on as well, right? And they're yelling to keep them straight. When they say keep them straight, they're talking about the oxen that Shy is trying to corral.
Not the oxen sexuality though.
No.
Yeah, she's not like trying to keep them straight, but like do something.
We are not proponents of any kind of conversion camps. Anyway. So basically, she's on a horse. She's trying to lead him, and I think she has like a rope coiled around her arm to kind of guide them. And they're making some progress. Leaf is also there on his own horse, trying to guide them. Lamb is in the back somewhere, fucking helping Sabian.
Slapping asses, probably.
Yeah,
like, get up there, oxen. He's definitely not trying to keep them straight.
Well, actually, right now, Lamb is with Savian trying to get one of Buckhorn's wagons.
Yeah, it's probably stuck in the mud.
Stuck in the mud, just getting it going and everything. So that's kind of like what the deal is right now so far with Driftwood, right? They're struggling, and then at some point, Leaf must have had too much slack on his rope, and an oxen slipped. Right, and then it drags Shy into the water, and she didn't let go of the rope, and she had it coiled around her arm. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you ever had rope burn, it is a bitch.
Awful.
Terrible.
If you haven't, you should go get some rope and try it out, so you can relate to the book better.
Yeah. So, but basically, Lamb was able to kind of like get her out, right, and like basically save her. In a sense, he picked her up. Seems like everything is okay. Eventually, like the oxen came up. It looks like they didn't lose any oxen or anything like that. And Lamb had carried her across the river, right? Set her down on the riverbank. And she's okay. She's just obviously her hand's kind of bloodied and her arm. And they're like, Jesus, you're all right? She's like, yeah, I'm fine. I just like gave my arm like a scrape. It's fine.
It's more like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. You don't got to worry about me. I'm a country girl. Not a valley girl. She, out of all the characters in this series, she is not a valley girl.
That's you're right. You're right. She's not a valley girl. She's not a valley. You could. So she's what? She's like a hillbilly. Jesus.
Yeah, she's country, bro. She's from my part of the country.
Well, there's rednecks, there's hillbillies, there's Appalachians. I mean, come on, get the right accent. Jeez. She got a spittoon.
You can't even
jar.
do it. You can't differentiate the accents. Jeffrey.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Go on, let's hear him.
I'm not gonna do it.
I am stronger than you, but I'm not gonna show.
I'm not gonna show you how strong I am. So anyway, yeah, and they joke about like, hey, you ever think about how a journey over 20 unbridged rivers might be a mistake? And Majud is like, yeah, every time we cross one, but what can a merchant do when he smells opportunity at the other side? As much as I detest hardship, I love profit more.
That's how very American.
Hey, manifest destiny.
I like the note that they said about the 20 rivers, right? Like we know that the Eus is not is it the what is the river's name?
The
Eos. Sorry.
Eos.
Yeah.
The
Eos.
Eos.
Yeah, the Eos. That river is absolutely massive, and I assume this is all connected here. I'm pretty sure all these rivers are connected to that river. they're all tributaries or somewhat similar to it. They're all this is a very American style, like Louisiana basin, ton of rivers everywhere. Even if it doesn't all lead into the Eos, it does a lot of it. There's still a ton of rivers. So I think that's a cool note. It's very, Louisiana basin. You got to cross a lot of rivers, even though a lot of them are navigable.
Yeah. It's a good point, Harrison. Nice little reference there. Like that. And we're back on the bank. Corlin comes shoving through, and she's all, I'll be taking care of her, y'all can leave. And they go, all right, guess they'll leave. And then once everybody kind of like lets Shy and Corlin to their business, Corlin kind of slips her a bottle of spirits, like a flask. He's like, hey, you go, I got some real good doctor in here, while she's actually applying ointment, stitching her hand up, putting bandages on, all that jazz up. So I like how liquor is an essential to medicine here.
Still is.
That's right. It kind of reminds me of like that cartoon depiction of the Rescue Saint Bernard rescuing like stranded skiers in the mountains, and the one thing he carries with him is a barrel around his neck full of alcohol. It's like, yeah, he knows what he's doing.
George, you're always very negative of Lamb in a lot of scenes, and not like in a you hate him kind of way, but like in a like you said it yourself that you think he's kind of like the bloodline all the time. But here he is saving his daughter. He's like, my baby girl, are you okay? Do you think that in the back of mind he's like, I could choke you out right now?
Almost definitely.
It'd be so easy. No one would even notice anything.
It just drowns her.
I saved you so I can kill you myself.
Jesus, George is such a negative.
He's a monster.
No, George. He was made a monster.
Wink, wink. Corlin and Shy, they're kind of like bantering with each other, getting to know each other a little bit more. While Corlin's administering aid to Shy, and they're looking over at Savian and Lamb, and they talk about like, it's they struck up quite a friendship, the two of them, for two men who don't really say a word to each other. The reason they say that is at some point they might have they got a wagon that they were working on like free, and it's it started moving, and Savian just gives him a silent but approving thump on the shoulder. And Corlin goes, yeah, the unspoken camaraderie of veterans. And Shy responds by asking, what makes you think that Lamb's a veteran? And Corlin goes, everything. And then switches over. She just says, you're done. She doesn't address that no more.
No, it is funny though that like everyone sees Lamb like almost immediately. It goes, yeah, that guy's scary. and Shy's still just like, yeah, no, he's harmless, even though
he's a fucking coward. Right? He's actually kind of a little bitch, and he's like,
oh, it's funny. And then yeah, and in that moment, actually, Corlin sees something and she kind of freaks and she says, Uncle, your shirt. And Shy looks over and is like, why is she freaking out over his shirt? Especially like we just crossed the river. And Savian looks and his sleeve was torn a little bit, and Shy caught a glimpse of his bare forearm. It was blue black with tattooed letters. Ooh.
Finish the fear?
No need to ask what he was a veteran of. He was a rebel. And so she looks up and Corlin looks down, and neither of them quite managed to hide what they were thinking. So Corlin says, just a torn shirt, nothing to worry about. And Shy goes, I dare say we've all got a rip or two behind us. Ain't none of my affair to go picking at other folks' stitches. Their business is their business. Corlin takes a swig of her liquor, passes it to Shy, and says that's a fine policy.
I like that there is this little line here though. He says she looks at Shy while like downing it, like she's not decided yet whether or not it's okay. Like that she knows. Like she's deciding what to do. She's still sizing her up. So even though she's like, "Hey, it's none of my business. It's all cool," she's still like, "That's
Mhm.
cool." Like
But I'm still
she's
watching
like,
you.
"I'm still
Yeah.
watching you." Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the garment-based bit of wordplay there as well.
Wait, what do
Oh,
you mean?
because we got a rip or two behind us.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
you don't want to
I
go
like that.
picking at stitches and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. I like that. Yeah, and they kind of like banter about like how great a bandage it is. That Shy has that Corlin did for her, and then Shy notices something floating along the river. It's a dead tree, something draped over the trunk. Someone, huh? So Shy takes off her blanket that somebody had given her. I think it was Lamb or whoever, and she goes back into the water, and she grabs the branch and she basically grabs the guy and brings him onto the riverbank. And Corlin's all, that's a funny looking fish. And she's like very suspicious about this person, right? And then Corlin, I like how people ask questions that they know this person doesn't have the answer to. Like Corlin's asking Shy, who is he? And Shy is like, I don't know. He's the Emperor of Gurkle for all I know.
I love that anytime there's like an outlandish statement for who somebody is, across the circle of the world, it's always the Emperor fucking Gurgle every single time.
That's true. You're right.
Walker uses it. I think that fucking who else uses it? I think uses it at some point. There's a lot of people who use it. It's really funny, and they do it in the new trilogy, in the Age of Madness trilogy too.
Yeah. No, it is actually pretty good. I like that. Nice callback there, Harrison. Cortland's just suspicious. She's like, we don't know who he is, so why are we gonna risk? Look, let's just ask him. Let's just ask him when we drag him out. But Cortland's like, all right, but if he turns out to be a murderer, it's your fault. So anyway, so they basically get him out, and put him on the riverbank, and then they look at this guy. He goes, he's a Kantic looking man, lean look. He's maybe 30 years old, short black beard. And I like how Shy goes, he's like earnest. He looks almost peaceful in spite of the cut. Like he just closed his eyes to philosophize a moment.
And it's funny because we know that about Temple, that he's got like that face, that people trust if you don't know him.
Yeah, exactly. And so then Shy goes, is he alive? And Corlin goes, only one way to find out. And she slaps him across the face. And so,
which was an actual thing, by the way. That was the actual proper medical procedure to revive someone back then.
Right, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You had to jolt them awake.
No such thing as CPR. You just go slap them until they wake up, and if they don't, they're gone.
Well, interesting.
I mean, what else are you gonna do? You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, but you could just like put your hand over their nose to see if they're breathing.
Yeah, but like to actually like to wake them up again, that's it. You just shock them as much as possible.
I mean, I think people just are like, I'll swear I can hit somebody. It's a fucking lamb buster. You're like, I'll do it. I'll slap.
He's like, yeah. I'll take this opportunity. I'm an expert at this. I'm good at reviving, or not. And so from Temple's perspective, he opens his eyes. He just sees a blinding brightness, and he's like, heaven. But then should he be in so much pain? Hell, then. But he feels so cold. And then he goes, God. And then he gets another slap, and he's like, not God. And he kind of, everything kind of brings, the slap brings everything into focus. And he sees a woman and goes, pale-skinned one. Yeah, Temple got the feeling that even though she's not old, that her time on the circle of the world had been tested and tried. And she has red-brown hair, and her mouth is always set in a suspicious frin, so much so that at the corners there's just faint lines that obviously is like consistently suspicious. Like,
I love this. That Joe does this a lot, where we don't ever get descriptions of characters unless it's through another character's perspective. So this is actually the first time that we ever find out what Shy and Temple look like.
Yeah, you're
I
right.
mean,
That's weird
we
to think
kind of
about.
know that, like, what Temple looks like because of the Little People chapter, because we see some people talking about Temple, but we don't ever like see proper description until this point when somebody actually has to think about what this person looks like.
That's an excellent point. I did not think about that
Interesting.
at all.
I feel like we might have gotten descriptions, but like you said, George, it might not have been like detailed.
Yeah, so like I think it's
Ooh.
Torbeck or something says that all we know about Temple is that he looks shifty or something like that. You know, when you kind of get a picture of it, but you can't really, you don't know any of the.
But they
details,
do
like
they
that.
do make like I feel like oh no, we never get Lance's perspective. You're right. Holy shit, dude. You're right. At least on Shy. Because like at least with Temple, we got Swarbrick and didn't we get one other person like Joubert or somebody?
I
And
know it goes.
they pointed out he's a
Yeah.
Cantic, so we knew that, Temple's of the darker persuasion.
But that's smart though too, because like we don't think about it as much, but like it's really annoying inside of like a lot of like YA books, whatever. Like the first couple scenes, it's like I looked into the mirror and saw my auburn hair. you're like, really? Would you think
Oh,
that?
yeah, you're
Is that
right,
how you
yeah.
think? Really?
Yeah, it's like you're reading a character biography instead of a story.
Yeah, you're like, I got this. My dark brown hair, like my father's, who passed away 3 years ago. Every single time, dude.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. George, nice. I like that. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
And I like how Temple also knows that another woman's face had hovered behind, older and square with shorter hair and blue eyes that looked as if they were stirred by nothing. So, I was like, both suspicious women, apparently. So Shy introduces herself, and Temple jokes. He goes, "You don't need to be. I feel like we know each other quite well."
I will say too, like as if you're Temple and like you're like you've been around all these men for like 10 years, and these disgusting men at that, and you wash up on this river after this crazy tumultuous experience. You think you're in heaven. You open your eyes and you see that this, as everybody says in this book, a pretty good looking gal, along with this other pretty good looking gal. You're like, I'm here. I made
it.
She doesn't even laugh at your jokes. Oh my god!
Why would she? He's wretched. Less than wretched.
He's less than wretched. Why? Because he does know to himself that people rarely find jokes based on their own name amusing. So
I love too. That's the second joke somebody made about her name. She's just like, okay.
Yeah, I get it. And so I like how he introduces himself that his name is Temple, and then Corlin goes, "Not the Emperor of Gurkle," then, and he's like, "What?" He goes, "I am a lawyer." And like, oh, so much for Ernest. We know he's a slime bag.
I've never read a decent lawyer in my life.
So they ask him, like, how does a lawyer get into a river? Did you give bad advice? And he goes, it's good advice that usually lands you in trouble. And he looks at Corlin. He goes, oh, you didn't tell me your name. And she goes, no. And she goes, so you weren't pushed then? Is no, that him and another man sort of push each other. And for all he knows, he'll float by presently. And Corlin asks him if he's armed. And Shy goes, he doesn't even have any boots on. And he goes, yeah. And he goes, I used to have a very small knife, but it didn't turn out too well. I've had a bad week. So Shy drags Temple. She goes, all right, come on. And Corlin's like, are you sure about this? He's like, yes. Or you can stay here then. So, but she drags Temple over to the Fellowship. And he's like really grateful for this as they're walking. Says, thank you so much. And it's like I said, takes him to the Fellowship. There's obviously all these wagons and children and dogs and stuff. And he asks her, where is the Fellowship heading? Because in his mind, he goes, it'll be just my luck if they're going to Square Deal or Aristoc. But Shy goes west, across the far country to Crease. And he goes, oh, anywhere but where I came from will suit well enough. West will be wonderful if you'll have me. And she goes, it ain't me you got to convince, it's these bastards. And it's the 5 of them, right? There's a ghost woman, which we know is Crying Rock, Dab Sweet, Majood, Savian.
Hood! It's Mahood! Get your damn accents.
Well, correct me the first time then, you dick. And then Savian and Lamb. And I like...
Savian, actually.
I love too that like they're whenever they're talking about like you got to convince these guys, like how now, even though they just got there, relatively speaking, maybe a couple weeks or whatever, Savian and Lamb are both like they're like the big boys. They're like, you got to convince them, dude. They're the protectors, you know. Make sure you're not a threat.
Yeah, and then Temple goes, gentlemen, and he's like, all right, Crying Rock. He goes, lady, it is my honor to meet you. My name is Temple, and that's what he goes. Speaks nice, doesn't he? But he said it like, yeah, we don't like that. And they, Shy explains that they fished him out of a river, and I like how Savian goes, you got a reason not to throw him back? Shy goes, Savian goes, he says, that's what he says, and Shy goes, didn't want to kill him, I guess. And Savian looks right at Temple and just shrugs and goes, wouldn't be killing him, just letting him down. Jesus Christ. And
they've got like no hesitation to just murder him right then and there. No problem.
And then Mahood goes, and where did you float in from? You don't appear to be native to these parts. And he goes, nah, no more than you, sir. I was born in Dagoska. Ah, an excellent city. But how does a Dagoskan come to be out here? And he goes, I must confess, I have fallen in with some bad company. And Mahood goes,
bad company. Nice.
Nice bad company. He goes, bandits? He goes, all that and worse. But he says soldiers. He left them and struck out on his own. And he was set upon by ghosts. And in the struggle, rolled down the slope and into a gorge, followed by a long fall into water. And I love how Lamb goes, with a faraway look, he goes, I've been there. We know for a fact he's been there at least twice. Oh, I love the callbacks. And so then Sweet asks him, like, oh, where did you run into these ghosts? He tells him upriver, he guess, how far away and how many. He doesn't know about how far away, but he saw 4 happened at dawn, and he'd been floating since. So okay, so it wasn't like multiple days that Temple is floating on the river. So that kind of ascertains that it might be no more than 20 miles south. So he thinks they should ride out and take a look that way. Crying Rock, I guess, agrees. The way she just kind of goes, and Mahood asks him if he expects trouble, but Savian says, always that way, you only be pleasantly surprised. Then he kind of gives Savian and Lamb, props for the work in the river. And then Mahood goes, I imagine, to Temple, you would be grateful to travel with our fellowship. Temple's like, yes, absolutely, beyond grateful. And then I like how Mahood goes, every member has either paid for their passage or contributes their skills. And Temple goes, ah. And so then Mahood starts asking him questions. He goes, do you have a profession? He's had several. Trainee priest, amateur surgeon. Savian goes, we have a surgeon and we got a priest. More's the pity. So Temple goes, butcher. Mahood goes, we have hunters. He says carpenter. He goes, well, are you a wagon man? And Temple goes, ooh, a house builder. He goes, we need no houses.
Those skills would be transferable, right?
They would be.
Well, just specifically in this, I love that. How funny this is. Like, Temple is super skilled. He's got a ton of really useful skills. But for a trek across the plains on like a pilgrim trek, no, he doesn't. He doesn't have shit.
But to George's point, like, house building and wagon work is like, I mean, they're still transferable. It's like you're working with wood.
You would know about that, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Is it because I'm Portuguese? You piece of shit. You piece of shit.
Well, I suppose the only thing is, like, you got to make sure that the thing doesn't fall apart from rattling, and you got to make wheels and things like that.
Yeah, I guess like axles and what have you. So, and then he goes, we need no houses here. What is your most recent work? And Temple knows himself that mercenaries usually won few friends, so he goes, "I was a lawyer." Then he was like, "Fuck that wins fewer."
Classic.
And Savian goes, "There's no law out here but what a man brings with him." So Mahood goes, "Have you ever driven oxen?" "Nope." "Herded cattle?" "No." "Handled horses?" "One at a time."
One at a time.
And Savian goes, "Experience in combat?" And he goes, "Very little, and that far more than I'd like." And he goes, "Fuck, this is not doing well." He goes, "All right, but I am determined to start fresh, earn my place, work as hard as any man or woman here, and keen to learn." And then Mahood
Yeah,
goes,
very inclusive.
yeah, but Mahood goes, "And I wish you every success with your education, but passengers pay 150 marks." Yeah, damn. And so I like how Temple pats his trousers, his pockets, and obviously it's soaking wet. And he goes, "I find myself a little short." How short? 150 marks ish. And I like how Shy goes, "Well, you let us join for nothing, and I reckon you're getting your money's worth." But Mahood goes, "But Sweet made that deal." And he's looking over Temple. He goes, he's not impressed. And he goes, "And you brought at least 2 boots apiece. This one was gonna need clothes, footwear, and a mount. We simply cannot afford to take in every stray that happens across our path." And so Shy asks Mahood, like, where does that leave him then? Mahood just says, "Waiting at the fort for his fellowship with different requirements."
Oh.
And then Chai goes, "Or another set of ghosts, maybe?" And Mahu goes, "If it were up to me, I would not hesitate before helping you. But I have the feelings of my partner, Kernsbick, to consider, and he has a heart of iron where business is concerned."
Yeah, that bastard Kernsbick.
"I am sorry." And Temple notes he did look a little sorry, but he did not look like he would be changing his mind. And Shy glances at Temple, and Temple, all he could do was stare back as earnestly as possible. And Shy goes, "Shit, I'll buy him in then." And Mahu goes, "Really?" And Temple goes, "Really?" And Shy goes, "Yep. Do you want the money now?" And Mahu goes, "Oh, don't trouble yourself. I know you're touch with figures." And Savian goes, "I don't like this. This bastard could be anyone." And Shy goes, "So could you. I have no notion what you were doing last month or what you're going to get to doing next month. And for a fact, it's none of my business. I'm paying, he's staying. You don't like it, you can float off downriver. How about that?" And she glared right into Savian's face. And Savian, he kind of purses his lips a little bit and he goes, "Got anything to say about this, Lamb?" And Lamb looks slowly from Temple to Shy and back. And he goes, "I reckon everyone should get a chance." Of course he would say that. And I like how
he needs all the chances.
yeah, it's Savian goes, "Even those who don't deserve it." And Lamb goes, "Especially them, maybe." And Temple goes, "You can trust me. I won't let you down. I promise." Even though he had left,
I promise.
I promise. Even though he had left a trail of broken promises across half the circle of the world. One extra will hardly keep him out of heaven. So I like how Savian goes, "You saying so don't necessarily make it so. I'm watching you, boy." Is Savian a racist?
Definitely.
Definitely. And so Chai had already turned and walked away, and Temple, he rushes to catch up to her, and he thanks her. He goes, "Thank you so much, truly. I'm not sure what I could do to repay you." And Shai responds by saying, "Repay me." And he goes, "Yes, of course, of course." And she goes, "With 1/4 interest. I'm no charity." And he goes, God damn it." "All right, principal plus 1/4, far more than fair. I always pay my debts, except the financial ones."
Who does this guy think he is, a Lannister? Jesus.
And so Shai asks him, he's like, "Is it true that you're keen to learn?" And he goes, "Yes, I am." Even though he's truly keener to forget and to work as hard as any man here. And he
And
goes,
he
"That
looks
claim-"
around and they're all like absolutely
Yeah.
miserable and dusty. And he's like, "Yeah."
Yeah, and good, and because Shai says, "Good, because I'll work you. Don't you worry on that score." And I like how Temple says he was worrying on several scores. He goes, "I can hardly wait to start." Oh boy. And so then he goes, she starts talking about how like maybe Hedges will have some clothes that'll fit, and that Gentili might have an old saddle that will serve. and Buckhorn's got a mule that he might sell. And Temple goes, a mule? And Shy goes, if that's too fucking lowly, you can always walk to Crease. And he goes, Jesus Christ, all right. He just smiled. He goes, I shall feel grateful for every moment spent astride the noble beast. And I like how Shy goes, you should feel grateful. And he snaps saying, I will. She goes, good. He says, good. And there's a pause. Good. And then that's the end of that chapter.
That's such a classic trope, isn't it?
Yeah. Boys, how do you rate it?
This is a long one, and there isn't. I gotta say, not a lot happens. We find about the
That's
rebels.
true, though.
And the whole. I like the crossing of the river thing, but it is a bit long and a little bit drawn out. So I'm just gonna give this one a 3.
Okay. Harrison?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it the same. Like there's some unique moments with Colin and everything, and then you got this. I like how Lamb saves Shy. Like I always put myself in Logan's position because it's so easy to do so since we have his perspective, and so that's cool. But also like, I agree. Like there's not much different here. Tipple's obviously as soon as he shows up, he's not gonna get like kicked out. That's not even Joe is not gonna just be like, oh, you didn't see this one coming, did you? So it's kind of you kind of see what's gonna happen as soon as you realize Tipple's coming down the river. So. But it's played out well. Just not much happens overall. So
Yeah, I'll give it a 4. Lengthy chapter for the most part, but not a lot in terms of like plot moving forward, except for the fact that the plot points of Temple and Shy and Lamb converge. They meet each other,
yeah,
and that's pretty much it. But like, I guess it's another part where it's like, okay, now the plot will be driven forward from this point on, right? But yeah, crossing of a river. Shy got injured, but she's okay. Corlin and her bond. We noticed that Savian and Lamb bond, and now Shy's got a heart of gold in terms of taking Temple into the Fellowship. So
she likes strays.
Yeah, she does. She likes strays. So that's a 4 for me, and that's the end of that chapter read through. Now our next segment is our best meme of the week. Georgia boy, that's your take it away.
So this is from the one of the memeing every chapters, and it's the easy way, and we've got our friend the Bloody Niner. So leading us off pretty strong here, and it's the scene from when Oppenheimer's talking to Einstein, but Ryan Gosling and his pink jumpsuit has been edited in, and obviously Ryan Gosling is Koska. Oppenheimer is Pike and Einstein is Swarbrick, and he's just like, remove this bad from my presence. His manner of expression offends me.
It's so silly. Really good one, though.
It's really silly. And it's good to see a Barbenheimer meme after 2 years. It's happened again.
It's been a while. Yeah,
it's a good one.
And Bloody Diner also asked me to say, if he got the meme of the week this week, that he was quite disgusted at being corrected in the comments. So if you want to go and have a look at the comment drama down there as well, that's pretty funny.
Our poor friend.
Exactly. But yeah, thank you very much for that, Bloody Niner.
As always, yes.
As always.
Thank you for that, Bloody Nana. Appreciate it. Okay, and don't forget, folks, join the memeing every chapter. So we'll move on to our next chapter read through, which is Reasons. Reasons is pretty straightforward. It's again from the perspective of Shy, and they got to a point in the journey where now the far country really expands before them, right? And it's just nothing but prairie, right? It's like nothing. Yeah. So like the Great Plains and all this. Imagine that if you can, folks. And Dav Sweet is over here. What's the word I'm thinking of? Not pontificating, but he's just out here like, have you ever seen something so beautiful? It beckons you on, and yet you always wonder, what more is there to explore?
He's waxing poetic.
Yeah, there you go. He very much is so. And And Shy, like it's been some time, right? It's been a few couple weeks now traveling, or some days at least, and they haven't bathed, they stink. And they're just Shy is just like scratching at her armpits. She's picked up some passengers, aka lice or something, I bet, or ticks, or I don't know.
Why not both?
Yeah. So,
I just don't
like you
get any
said,
leeches from that river.
oh yeah, true, true, true. And so basically, Dabsweet and Lamb are kind of waxing poetic about how, time passing and not realizing it. And Dab's like, you and Leaf, you guys are young, just like all young people. You guys just assume you have all the time in the world and all this stuff.
But
No,
I love the
stupid young
line from
people.
Shy. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm being dumb. I'm like, stupid young people. What are they thinking?
I love the line from Sean. It's like, oh, I love old bastard talk, don't you? Makes me feel healthy.
Yeah, and I like how Dab, Leaf says something like, he says something funny like, "Oh, if the ghosts don't kill us all first, in talking about like how much time they have or not." And he goes, "Yeah, and if philosophy doesn't suit you, Leaf, I have another occupation for you." And he nods down towards, cow leavings, and he goes, "Collecting bullshit." And he's like, "So, and they're gonna collect, scat to burn as fuel."
Yeah, scat.
And so that's what they're gonna be burning until they cross the bridge at Sick Tis. And I like how it's like, oh, are we gonna be cooking over cow dung too? And Lamb goes, it might improve the flavor of what we've been eating. Oh, it's funny. So anyway, they that's basically the start of the chapter, right? Is where reminiscing about times past and how beautiful the far country is, at least for Dab Sweet. And then they ride back, and Lamb and Shy kind of ride next to each other for the most part, and uh, they ride in silence for a little bit, and Lamb out of nowhere says, "I'm sorry," right, just out of nowhere. And Shy looks over at him and she says, like, I've always thought so, right? Because, you're a sorry coward and all this stuff. And he says he means it. He's sorry for what happened back there in Averstock, for what he did and what he didn't do. Sorry that he never told her what he was before he came to her mother's farm. And she's watching him and her mouth's getting dry now because she's thinking about what happened. And she just watches him frowning down at his left hand, rubbing at his stump of the middle finger over and over. And Lamb continues saying that all he wanted was to leave the past buried, being nothing and nobody. And he asks Shy if she could understand that. Says, yeah, of course, I reckon. And then he says, but the seeds of the past bear fruit in the present, my father used to say. We know who fucking used to say that.
God damn it. That fucking saying, man. It's caused so many deaths.
Yeah. And he says he's that much of a fool that he's got to teach himself the same lesson over and over, always pissing into the wind. The past never stays buried, not one like his, leastways. Blood will always find you out. And so now Shy is getting to the point like, fuck, who is this guy? She goes, well, what were you, a soldier? And his face gets harder and he just says, a killer. Let's call it what it was. And so she goes, did you fight wars up in the north? And he goes, in wars, skirmishes, and duels, and anything offered. And when I ran out of fights, I made my own. And when I ran out of enemies, I turned my friends into more. And she goes, Jesus Christ. She goes, I guess you had your reasons.
No,
And
I was an asshole.
he says, good ones at first, then poor ones. Then I found you could still shed blood without them and gave up on the bastards altogether, meaning reasons. And she goes, well, you got a reason now, though. And he goes, yeah, I got a reason now. Those children.
A reason to hurt people.
Jesus Christ. That he's saying that the kid, that they're all the good he's done in his life. Rowan, Pitt, and Shy. And I like how Shy kind of like laughs a little bit. She goes, if you're counting me in your good works, you got to be desperate. And he goes, he is. But as it happens, you're about the best person he knows. And it's like, God damn. And then Shy goes, well, you've got a damn limited circle of friends. But he goes, enemies always came more natural to him. But even so, he doesn't know where she gets it, but she's got a good heart.
No.
It's really sweet.
I mean, she did just pay for Temple though, like out of the goodness of her heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right.
And but she does think of him carrying her from that tree, singing to the children, putting the bandages on her back, because she was thinking about this when Lan was carrying her out of the water, how he used to carry her when she hurt herself when she was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, so have you. And I like how Lan goes, oh, I can fool people. The dead know I can fool myself. But no, I don't have a good heart. Where we're going, there'll be trouble. And if we're lucky, just a little. But luck ain't exactly stuck to me down the years. So listen, when next time I tell you to stay out of my way, you stay out. You hear? And she goes, what? Why? Would you kill me? And she kind of jokes. But his cold voice says, goes, there's no telling what I'll do. And then they're just kind of quiet. She's like, okay.
At least he's letting her know, though.
Yeah.
It's good that he's being honest.
And then, so there's some time passes, and then they hear some kind of like voices carrying over the wind back at where the fellowship is. And it's like panicked voices. And the fellowship is kind of all up in a tizzy because people are like, someone saying like, there's ghost. And Dab's like, it's not ghosts, God damn it, relax. It's just travelers. So they could see off a little to the north that there's a line of slow moving riders. But Lord Ingolstadt is asking, how can you be sure? He goes, because ghosts wouldn't be just trotting across the horizon. He says, you sit here, he's going to go, and him and Crying Rock will go parlay. And Lamb and Chai follow because might be these travelers know something about the children, right? Which is smart. So they get over there, and it's a sorry. This fellowship is a sorry one, right? Like a few wagons, threadbare. The horses are starving. Sweet, he rolls up on him. He goes, how does it do? And the guy, the leader, is all offended. He goes, how does it do? How does it do? A year older than we came the other way, and not a fucking hour richer. That's how we're doing. Enough of the far country. We're heading back to Starkland. Fuck this. It's okay. Okay, buddy. So they talk about like how there's risk and everything, but Kreese is that he fills them in. Basically, that Kreese is at bloody war, killings every night, new people coming in every day. They don't even bother to bury the bodies anymore. And then this group had pushed on up to Beacon into the hills to find a claim to put some work. Place was crawling with men, hoping for the same. And Sweet was like, oh shit, when it wasn't more than three tents last time he was there, which I don't know how long ago that was, but it's a whole town now, or it was at least, because he says they stopped there a night or two and then went into the wilds, and then they came back to town after they checked a few creeks and didn't find any gold, just cold mud. And he says that everyone was gone. 200 people in that camp or more just gone.
Pretty crazy.
And it's like sort of like the ghost ship thing, isn't it? It's like, the meals are still on the tables and everything's like ready, and it just disappeared.
Yeah, and Spooky. They say that in the square they find a dragon circle painted 10 strides across, which is crazy to think, right?
Yeah, and that's a big old. I wonder what they use for that as well. There's no paint lying around.
And so Sweet goes, you haven't been no dragon people seen in years. And like Shy's not sure what dragon people are. He's like, what are they? Some kind of ghost? And Crying Rock says, a kind. They live way up north, high up in the mountains. And, these are people you don't fuck with. And the guy, the leader of the little fellowship says, I'd rather dabble with Glustrad himself. He fought Northmen in the war. He fought ghosts on the plains, and he fought Papa Ring's men in Kreese, and he didn't give a stride to any of them. But he's not fighting these dragon bastards. Not if the mountains was made of gold. Sorcerers, that's what they are. Wizards and devils, and he'll have none of it. Okay. So Sweet says that they appreciate the warning, but they come this far, and they'll go on. So the guy says, all right, well, good luck to you. And, make to go, and Lamb stops the guy. He goes, "Have you heard of Gregor Cantless?" And so the guy does. He says, "Yeah, he works for Papa Ring, and you won't find a blacker bastard in the far country. A fellowship of 30 got killed and robbed up in the hills near Crease last summer, ears cut off and skinned and interfered with, and Papa Ring said it must be ghosts, and no one proved it otherwise, but he heard a whisper that it was Cantless that did it." And Shy goes, "Well, we got business." And he goes, "Well, then I'm sorry for you, but I haven't seen him in months, and I don't plan to lay eyes on him. Not him, not Crease, not any part of this goddamn country." And then, they leave. And then Sweet goes, "Well, I thought you knew everyone in..." Shy goes to Sweet and says, "I thought you knew everyone in the far country." And Sweet just goes, "Those who've been about for a while." Shy goes, "Oh, but not this Cantless, though?" And he goes, "Crease is crawling with killers. Like, I'm not out there often enough to tell one from another. If we both get there alive, I can make you an introduction to the mayor. Then you can get some answers." The mayor? Who is the mayor? Apparently, the mayor runs things in Crease. Well, the mayor and Papa Ring run things. It's been that way ever since it started being a settlement, and they're not too friendly with each other. Sounds like they're not getting any friendlier. They're just at war, right? Obviously for control of the settlement.
Good old rivalry. Look at
Yeah.
that.
And Lamb asks him if the mayor can help them find Cantless, and Shrug, is like, maybe. He goes, "The mayor can always help you if you can help the mayor." And that's the end of that chapter. Boys, how do you rate it?
I like this one. I like the little moment between Shy and Lamb. Slip there.
Oh.
And I like that we get the a lot of sort of non-clumsy story about Crease as well. Like, this is the first time we hear about the mayor and Papa Ring and the dragon people and all that. So it's a good way of sort of segueing into the journey, which is good.
Yeah, and it's
again.
Yeah.
But I like it. But again, it's short and not a huge amount happens. So I think only a 5 for this one.
You got a 5, yeah. Go ahead, Harrison.
George and I seem to be on the same page, because that's exactly what I was thinking too. Because for the same exact reasons. I mean, we get some introductions of some other things happening, but overall, it is, not. We're still setting up everything, because this book has a much more narrow plot, but also has to do a lot of legwork, and there's only one way to do that: is to set it up first and pay it off later. And so this is definitely a situation where, yes, it's just another setting up chapter, and so I agree. I think a 5 is totally appropriate. I mean, we have this nice one between Logan and Shy, which we do get a lot of these, but again, it's always the reminder too. Even though we know what Logan is, I feel like Red Country, even if he is as George says, even if he is in the Bloody Nine State the whole book, we're still reminded that he's more than just that. And so, but yeah, a 5 I think is more than enough for this chapter.
I originally, as I was reading it, I was originally going to give it a 3 and a knuckle, because it's shorter than the previous chapter and it's more exposition than anything. But that moment between Lamb and Shy, it's a really nice moment. So I think I'll bump it to 4 and a knuckle.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's more exposition than anything, right? If anything, really less happens here than the previous chapter. But I think just like that the deepening of the relationship of Shy and Lamb is what kind of puts it over the edge for me. And then we kind of get okay, so we know Gregor Cantless. We know that he's now he know that he's in Crease and he's with Papa Ring and all this stuff. Get some background information there, but it is. I like George, what you said about how it gave us that information in a straightforward manner, right? It wasn't clumsy. So, yeah, 4 and a knuckle for me. So let's move on to our last segment, which is our character spot. Boys, who are we spotlighting this episode?
Well, we got to go with the very sad, the failed fellowship. They are very sad. It's I love the difference too. We see this fellowship and it's soaring music, and you first see them and they're like na 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 na, and you're like, wow, what a sight. Look at the humanity. And then this one, you're like, oh, this is the consequence. Imagine having to go all that way. You losing all of your friends and family basically, and then you and like 40 other people were like limp your way back home. Sounds terrible.
And this is right at the beginning of the journey as well. They've just crossed like the few rivers and they've just got to the plains. And they see them coming back, and it's like, yeah, it's like 6 weeks that way, and there's fucking nothing there. That's a bit demoralizing, isn't it?
No kidding, dude. It's pretty depressing.
Oh man, yeah, those dudes were disillusioned. They were like, "Fuck this place, fuck you guys. We just met you, and fuck you guys." And it's like, "Oh, whoa."
They're the most sensible people in the whole circle of the world. They're like, "No, we've done it. I'm just going home. I'm just gonna go home. Nothing possibly bad can
out
happen."
of here. This fucking sucks. This fucking sucks. Yeah, I mean, this false fellowship. I mean, I don't know, man.
False.
They just couldn't hack it, I guess, right? They just couldn't hack it. They're not
Losers.
They're not true believers, man. You know, it's like, what are they doing? Come on. I don't know. What do you guys think? I think they're false. That's what I think. I just think they just couldn't hack it.
I think that they're representation of like all these people have these hopes and dreams and stuff, and Joe is like, yes, but also look how terrible it could be. Isn't this awful?
I think they made up that story about the dragon people, and like they just couldn't hack it.
Oh, is it fake news, Jeff?
Fake news. Fake news.
You're probably right, Jeff. My bad.
I don't need any more convincing.
That's it. That's all I need. Well, I guess we wish them luck on the return journey home, right? I assume we will not hear from them at all or hear anything about them at all for the rest of this book.
One and done. We don't even know their names. They just see it.
That's it. I like how he gave us a little bit of background that he fought in the Northern Wars and stuff, and I'm like, ooh, what's your name? Come on, maybe we might have seen you, but they didn't say shit. So
yeah,
we'll see.
There's a lot of Northern Wars, and presumably a good amount of Northmen, even before the book started, left the North because of that. So it makes sense.
But I think this guy was a Union man, though.
Oh, it's a no. Are you talking about the? Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
The leader of this false fellowship.
I was talking about in general all the wars, but yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's pretty much our character spot, right, boys? All righty.
Yeah.
That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support means so much.
Join us next week as we cover Oh God, the Dust, Sweets Crossing, and Dreams.
And make sure you follow us on all of our social media, or send us an email at circletheworldpodcast@gmail.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast from. And please make sure to review us with a 5-star review. Thank you all again for listening.
I love old bastard talk.